Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ.com's official predictions video for WWE Hell in a Cell 2016. My name is Aaron Rift. I am being joined by David Payne. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing very well, Aaron. Thanks for having me on again.
Are you ready for Hell in a Cell?
I am actually ready for Hell in a Cell.
Are you ready to go to hell?
I've been to hell and back before, so it's no different this time, second time around.
Yeah, well, we've been to hell over the years with some WWE pay-per-views, but I will say that when it's all said and done, usually these pay-per-views are good. And despite the bad writing, in my opinion, I think this pay-per-view will be yet another strong pay-per-view. I think all the matches have the potential to at least be really good, if not great. And time will tell if we see a couple of all-time classics on Sunday. I'm hoping so. Looking at this card, I mean, we have 6 matches confirmed, and I'm assuming WWE will add 1 or 2 more matches, which we'll talk about at the end. First, let's talk about the matches that are confirmed for the pay-per-view. At this point, there's no match that has officially been announced as the pre-show match, so that could end up being a match that hasn't been announced yet. The first match on here is a tag team match. Enzo and Cass against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. On Raw this week, we saw Enzo defeat Carl Anderson with an assist from Big Cass. Big Cass hitting the big boot to help Enzo score the pinfall victory. Now, because of that, one would think that the heels are going to get their win back at the pay-per-view, and I think that Anderson and Gallows really need a win at this point. So, is that something you would agree with?
Oh yeah, they definitely need a win. I mean, it's kind of sad because they were this big thing in Japan, but really the fans are just not into them. I mean, they're always on the brink of chanting something when they're in the middle of a promo. Their promo work needs a little work, but if I was booking it long term, I would say that Anderson and Gallows will eventually get the tag team titles from the New Day, and then Enzo and Cass will chase that. I mean, if that's perfect scenario, that's the way I see it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see Enzo and Cass going for the tag team titles once the New Day lose the titles, which I do not see happening until they break Demolition's record, and we'll get to that in a minute here. But yeah, you would think you would try to give Gallows and Anderson a big win here and try and reestablish them as credible forces in WWE. I'm not sure if that's something that can be done at this point. I'm wondering if it's too late for them. I mean, do you think that they can be salvaged from the way they've been booked over the past couple of months?
well, I mean, they're going to have to be. There's not a whole lot of heel tag teams that can go against the New Day. I mean, I don't see them booking two babyface tag teams together. So I do. I eventually see them getting some momentum and eventually getting some wins and them vying for the belt, them being the Anderson and Gallows.
Yeah.
So too
Well,
sweet.
too sweet. Well, we'll talk about that in a second here. Let's talk about the New Day since we're on the similar topic.
Okay.
The next match is the New Day versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the tag team titles. We had Cesaro and Sheamus picking up the victory on Raw. They actually worked well as a tag team. That was the story of the match. And they did defeat the New Day, and now they have the tag team title shot. We all know how WWE is with the 50-50 booking, and of course, you want to establish the number one contenders, and it happens all the time where the number one contender or contenders beat the champion or champions leading up to the pay-per-view, and then of course they lose at the pay-per-view. And I do not see New Day losing this match when they're on the way to beating Demolition's record. They're very close now, so I do not see a title change here. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't see a title change either. In fact, I think once they pass it, they'll probably save it for a major pay per view. And when I mean major, I mean one of the big four, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, and then we'll see a title change. But, it's funny because I really do like the dynamic with Cesaro and Sheamus. It's funny. It's entertaining for me to watch. And if they do the comedy bit in the ring, I prefer that more than a comedy bit just on the promo. It's cheesy that way. So if they're going to play it out in the ring as a storyline, I like that. So yeah, I don't see them winning, but I do still like the dynamic of Cesaro and Sheamus, and who knows how long they'll keep that going with New Day or with whomever. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't. New Day will definitely retain this week.
Yeah, so I think that's a safe prediction. And, moving forward, I've talked about the idea of maybe the Revival or a team like that coming up to the main roster and beating New Day. That could also happen. I'm not sure about it Anderson and Gallows and if WWE is going to invest in them at this point. It might be a situation like Del Rio where the company brings in somebody, pushes them really strong, and then they just fizzle out and then leave out of being frustrated with their spot in the company. So,
well, that very well could happen.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's more likely a team like Revival comes up and beats New Day than Anderson and Gallows winning.
Well, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So those are the 2 tag team matches for this pay-per-view. Unless Teddy Long gets lucky, that's it for the tag team matches. Next up, we have a singles match for the Cruiserweight Championship. We have TJ Perkins defending against Brian Kendrick. Really weird setup for this match. On Raw this week, we had the number 1 contender, Brian Kendrick, losing to Rich Swann, which is something we usually don't see happening. And then backstage, Kendrick was basically begging TJ to take the fall and lose on purpose to Kendrick because Kendrick needs this. This is his last opportunity. He's got to do it for his family. And then TJ, of course, was having none of it. He just stormed off. So really weird build-up for this match. What do you think about the build-up, and do you think Kendrick might pull off a victory here?
Well, I think they're overthinking it in terms of the writing. They don't need to do that. They should have just had Kendrick get a win. I know Rich Swann's been pretty hot lately, and he's been featured on NXT as well, but let Kendrick get the win, then go into the championship match. This booking, it's like they're overthinking the writing. Just let him go out there and do his thing, man. But, TJ Perkins, to me, has lost a little momentum. I don't know why. I just don't know if he's quite that over right now.
Yeah.
And when he first won it, he was. And in the weeks to come, it just seemed like he's had some botches in the ring, and the fans are kind of just, whatever about it. They're kind of just, they're just watching. I mean, they appreciate the high spots, but it doesn't seem like the fans are really invested in any of the Cruiserweight storyline right now. So I probably see TJ Perkins retaining it until the next young gun comes along. But, that was my idea of Kendrick's role to begin with, was he's sort of just going to put over the younger guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird. I mean, I think part of the problem is that the stuff we saw on the Cruiserweight Classic with them just doing all these crazy things, like, they're not doing that on Raw. They're holding back because, WWE doesn't want the Cruiserweights outshining everybody else on the show. So it's a very weird situation for the Cruiserweights where they're being held back and not allowed to do the things that got them over in the first place with the fans.
Yeah, it makes no sense. They had all the high spots in the Cruiserweight Classic. That was the most compelling wrestling I've seen all year. I know you finally watched it. It's really good stuff, but me and Jeff Meacham even talked about this the day after, and I said, I hope they don't make them, tame them down. And sure enough, they are.
Yeah.
But, if you go back to WCW in 1997 and Nitro, those Cruiserweight matches stole the show, and that's what they want to win ratings. Let's have good matches, man. Let them do their thing.
Yeah, and it's not like you have like Hogan or Savage or Piper, the older guys that really cannot deliver. You have the guys like Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins that can deliver on top. So, yeah, I mean, WWE has one of its stronger rosters in its history. Why not just let everybody go out there and try and put on the best match possible?
I agree.
Especially with the Cruiserweights, because that's their strong point, is doing all the athletic stuff. And, they're not the best promos. They're not the most intriguing characters. You have to play to their strengths, and their strengths are their ability to go out there and have really fast-paced, entertaining matches.
I agree. They should they shouldn't put the brake on it. They should just go full throttle with the Cruiserweights and let, that really elevate Raw to a better show, in my opinion, much as it did Nitro back in the day.
Yeah, so your prediction is for TJ to retain?
Yes, my prediction is for TJ to retain. Although he's had a bumpy start, I still think they plan on going with him a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'm not sure. I mean, until Raw, I thought for sure TJ, but I'm wondering if Kendrick might win it here and they go with Kendrick versus Rich Swann for the title.
Well, that could be. As I said, Rich Swann's getting a hell of a push right now. You see him featured on Raw and NXT, so that could be possible too. I could go either way with this, but it's just he's only been the Cruiserweight champion for a month or so, right?
That's weird. I think I'm going to go with Kendrick, but I think this one can go either way. I mean, just the way it was booked, it seems to be leading to something other than TJ retaining. So I'm going to go with Kendrick, but it's a toss-up.
We'll see.
All right. So next up we have the 3 Hell in a Cell matches, and I think the big question everyone's wondering is the order of the 3 matches. which match will go on last. And I'm assuming one of the matches will kick off the pay-per-view, so you spread them out. You have one match opening the pay-per-view, one match in the middle, and then one match at the end. That's what I'm expecting, at least.
Yeah, I could see that, but I will say though they got to drop the whole triple main event. That's just bullcrap. Okay, ask CM Punk about that. Oh yeah, you're in the second main event, CM Punk. No, the main event is the last match. Come on.
Yeah. Well, you know, WWE's trying to make them all equal in importance, which I
Right.
understand.
I understand.
Now, which match do you think will be the first match of the three, and which match do you think will go on last? That's a tough one.
That is a tough one because really the women's match could either go first or last. They could pull a swerve and say, let this one close out. Because there's been a lot of fan push about that on the internet. It's like, let's give the women, let them close out. But, you know, it's got to be the WWE Championship match. That's got to be the last. I mean, you would think, right? Otherwise, it makes that title doesn't look as credible.
Well, that's why they made it a cell match in the first place, because they wanted that match to have the prestige and be on an equal level with the other matches.
Right. So, I mean, it could go either way. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I'll say the women's match will be the first if I'm going with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough call. I mean, I think it's a safe prediction to say that Rusev and Roman Reigns will not be last. So
no, if they are, I'm probably just going to walk out of the room and get ready to do the video with you and not even finish watching it.
You know, I think my gut feeling is Reigns versus Rusev is going to be first, because
that's a good book.
They'll get that out of the way, and you know, there's always this concern about the fans turning on Reigns, and I think if that match is in the middle, I think there's a decent chance the fans might turn on it. But if it's the first match, you know, the fans are excited about the pay-per-view. It's the first Hell in a Cell match they're seeing, and I think there'll be more overall excitement, and I think that will protect Reigns more than putting that on in the middle. That's just my gut feeling on it.
Oh, that's actually a great insight there on booking. You're right. That could happen. I could see that happening now. You're right.
Yeah,
You've convinced me.
All right. Well, with that, I mean, it could go anyway. I mean, I'm sure they're still debating about it, and it won't be until the last minute that a final decision is made. I also think the match that has the most amount of high spots and the match that's given the most, I think that should be the match that goes on last. So the question is, will like Sasha Banks and Charlotte be given all the big spots, or is WWE going to spread it out? I mean, what do you do for each match to make it stand out from the other ones? Like that's the big question.
That was sort of the problem with SummerSlam. I thought was the order of the matches. You know, you gotta really to keep the people's attention span. You gotta put them on in a way where it's like, okay, we'll start off with a really good match, then we'll have a filler match, then we'll have a title match, then another filler match. You know, it's sort of like pacing. But in my personal opinion, like if I were the boss, I would say, Sasha, Bayley, you're on last. Go out there. Sasha, you know, bust Charlotte open, let her look like her dad, you know, with the hair soaked in blood. Well, I mean, it probably won't happen. Yeah, I would love to see that.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like we've never seen blood in a women's match, and I mean, if anybody's gonna do it, it would be Charlotte. It would be Ric Flair's daughter, and seeing her all busted up like her father. That would be a really cool visual. Maybe they'll try to do what Lesnar's been doing in his matches, and somebody gets cut open the hard way. You know, would not shock me if Charlotte and Sasha try to do a hard way blood spot, something like that.
It almost makes the blood more meaningful now that they can't blade. They get fined for blading. So the fact that they're actually telling them, hey, give me a stiff elbow or something, you know, cut me open. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, really.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how WWE would feel about the women bleeding, since, you know, they're very protective of their image. And what does it say when the women are doing all this barbaric stuff? So, I mean, but people are going to have high expectations for this match and expect the women to just beat the holy hell out of each other in Hell in a Cell. I mean, they've made such a big deal on TV how barbaric and vicious this match is, and I hope WWE's not setting themselves up for failure by overhyping how brutal the Cell match is, and then we come to the pay-per-view and, you know, they do a couple of spots with the steel steps, and maybe guys get thrown into the cage a couple of times, and maybe somebody goes through a table, and that's it. I mean, what do you do to really sell the intensity of the match, and what can you do that's creative and something different that we haven't seen before? I mean, how would you lay out each one of these matches to make them different from the other ones?
That's a very good question. You would have to have one match differ from the other, and I would venture to say if we don't see blood twice, we'll at least see it once. I have to. There's not many Hell in a Cell matches where you don't see it. Of course, I mean lately with the PG era, but they're starting to slowly bring it back. And to me, not just the blood, but as you said, high spots. I don't anticipate Charlotte doing anything like Mick Foley, but still, it would be cool if it spilled outside. And yeah, I want to see it different, and they are hyping it, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
And I think Owens and Rollins, I think that match will probably have outside interference. Jericho or Triple H.
You think?
Yeah, I mean. That I'm expecting a lot of craziness. Maybe that'll be the match where they go outside the cell and possibly even fight up on the top a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there'll be Jericho coming out, and just all the gimmicks will be in that match.
Mhm.
I think Reigns versus Rusev will just be a crazy brawl, and maybe they'll use some tables or the steel steps or whatever. And
I'm going to guess that Rusev spears Reigns and a piece of the cage falls over. I don't know. They'll have to fix it for the next match, but that could happen.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think it'll be very similar to the Reigns versus Bray Wyatt match from last year. It'll be a similar type of match, I think.
I think all of Roman Reigns' matches are pretty similar.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine. So let's talk about the predictions for each match. First up, the women's match. I mean, I think Charlotte, she had her run, and I think the focus is going to be building up towards Sasha versus Bayley at some point, and Sasha turning heel. Sasha just won the title back, so I don't see her losing again unless she's hurt again. Unless something like that happens. But yeah, I think Sasha winning is a safe prediction here.
Yeah, I agree with you, unless barring an injury like last time. Although personally, I'm not. I wouldn't mind seeing Charlotte have that belt for over a year. I mean, I don't know. It just makes it all meaningful for the biggest pay-per-view. But as you said, it's going to be a showdown between Sasha and Bayley. Bayley being the baby face that eventually is going to win it. But I like Charlotte, and I still think she'll be involved in the main storyline throughout this whole thing.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it sure looks like WWE is going in the direction of Charlotte versus Dana Brooke. Having them feud, and then also you have Nia Jax, who's on the sidelines right now. They haven't focused on her in the past few weeks, but one would think that you could do a Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks feud for the title until WrestleMania. Then you start building up Sasha versus Bayley.
Yeah, I like that book. I mean, Nia Jax has had enhancement talent thus far, so she's obviously due for something different.
Yeah, it's time to put her in the mix, and makes sense to do Nia versus Sasha. After this pay-per-view,
I agree with that.
That would be.
But yeah, I'm going to go with Sasha to win this one. I agree with you.
All right. Next up, we have Roman Reigns versus Rusev U.S. title match. This one's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how much longer WWE is going to keep Reigns in the U.S. title situation. They may do it for a while. But at the same time, I think WWE wants to keep pushing Roman Reigns to some level and, keep him as the U.S. champion. I mean, this one's tough. I'm not sure which way to go on this one. I could see Rusev winning back the title, or I could see Reigns just beating Rusev and then somebody else. I mean, the question is, where does Reigns go from here? Who's his next challenger? That's what I'm trying to think of, and I'm not really sure. I could see Reigns going back into the title mix with Rollins and Jericho, maybe. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about this match? You got any ideas about where they'll go with Reigns?
It's really confusing at this point. My guess would be that they'll keep the U.S. strap on him for a somewhat lengthy time, because then it establishes him as this brand with the U.S. title. And he's had, you've seen lately with the U.S. title, it was on Dean Ambrose for over a year. Before John Cena got hurt, he had it for a while. Rusev had it for a while. So I don't see it switching again. But then again, you never know. If Vince McMahon loves this guy for some reason, and I could see him being in the main event picture soon. But for the time being, at least until Survivor Series, I see him retaining the U.S. strap just to sort of protect him, if you will.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning towards Reigns retaining, and I expect this to be the blow-off of the feud. This will be the last match between them, and not sure where Rusev will go after this, without the U.S. title and losing to Reigns. Not sure what you're going to do with him. So it's really weird. I'm not sure what the future direction is with these guys. But, yeah, I'll go ahead and say Reigns,
why not?
It's like Cena. It's hard to bet against Reigns, knowing
Yeah,
how
it
much
is. When you got the
stock.
machine behind you.
Yeah, the company's got so much stock in the guy, so hard to bet against him. So I'll go ahead with Reigns as my prediction.
I'm with you there.
All right, and then we have the main event. Well, one of the main events. This very well could end up being the final match of the show. We have Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell match for the Universal Championship. This one, I think I would go with. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, on Raw, we saw Rollins pinning both guys. He pinned both Owens and Jericho, and after the match, Kevin Owens laid out Seth Rollins. So this one is another one where I think it could go either way. I mean, I could see Kevin Owens retaining, or WWE might feel, hey, ratings are down. There hasn't been much momentum from Owens as champion, so they're going to go with they're going to go with Rollins as the champion. But at the same time, you could see Chris Jericho interfering. Jericho might accidentally cost Owens the title, or you might have Triple H coming out and costing Rollins the match. So there's a lot of possibilities for this one. There's a lot of different ways WWE could book this match. So to me, it's another toss-up. I think I'm going to lean towards Owens retaining. Maybe Triple H interferes. It depends. When are you doing Triple H versus Rollins? If you're doing that soon, like by the Royal Rumble, then you should have Triple H get involved. If you're waiting until WrestleMania, then it makes no sense for Triple H to show up now. So, I think it just depends on when WWE's doing Triple H versus Rollins. And are they going to make that for the WWE title? That's another question. I'm just not sure about this one. I'll lean towards Owens retaining, but this one I think could go either way.
Well, you make a really great point about the Rollins Triple H feud and when that's going to happen. But my question is, too, it's going to happen eventually where Jericho is going to cost Owens a match and then they're going to feud. But when is that going to happen is the question. Could that happen on Sunday? Could he cost Owens the belt and then have them have a rivalry? But, personally, I like to see Kevin Owens have a long title run. I don't know if it's the right time for a babyface Seth Rollins to win the title. Not yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's just the turn that he had didn't seem seamless. Like he was this heel, but people were cheering for him. And just 2 weeks before he turned babyface, he's telling people, "I don't need you," and then all of a sudden, people are cheering for him. It's really weird. So to me, it could go either way. But I eventually see Jericho costing Owens a match and them getting into a rift. No pun intended.
Yeah. I think they got to do something pretty soon because I believe Jericho's resuming his work with Fozzy fairly soon, before the end of the year. So one would think that they're going to pull the trigger on that and do something to have the official breakup between them, which could happen. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if Jericho will cost Owens the title, and that sets up Owens versus Jericho, sometime in the next month, and then Jericho leaves to do his stuff with Fozzy. So.
Right, but I don't see Seth Rollins feuding with Triple H with him being the champion again, though. I just don't see Triple H putting himself in that title picture again. Why would you? You don't need to now. You have enough people that could carry that.
Yeah.
So it really is a toss-up. So I'm kind of debating this in my head. It could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, now I think I'm going to go with Rollins. I'm really torn.
I am too. I mean, because that's just what I see it building up to is Jericho and Owens just imploding. So I would go with Rollins too, but you never know.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I were protecting Kevin Owens, I would have him keep the title for a while, but it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, I think what's going to happen is Jericho will interfere. That's the direction right now, and I think Rollins can win the title, and then maybe around January you have Triple H costing him. I think WWE is going to hold off on Triple H and Rollins until WrestleMania. So
that would make sense.
That's my gut feeling. So I'm going to go with my gut and say Rollins wins the title. WWE does Jericho and Owens, and then sometime around January Royal Rumble, you have Triple H resurface and perhaps cost Rollins the title or challenge Rollins for the title. You know how WWE is, and Triple H has to be in the spotlight and all that. So that's what I think is going to happen at this point. So yeah, I'm going to go with Rollins, but this one is a big toss-up to me.
It is. Well, I was glad I was able to sway you bit, at least into contemplating what could happen.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we saw on Raw, we saw a segment with Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman, and there was really no match. Braun Strowman just beat him up and then left. So I'm thinking that WWE might add that match to the pay-per-view at the last minute. Of course, they always do that. We record the video, and then literally like an hour or two after the video goes up, WWE announces another match. You would think they would announce all the matches on TV, when everybody's
Right.
watching, but they always do this. They always add matches on their website at the last minute. So, if they do that match, I mean, I think Braun Strowman will win. What do you think?
Yeah, they do that so that their website can get a little bit of traffic for once. But
I suppose.
but yeah, I see Braun Strowman winning because to me it could be a trade out. You could see Rusev kind of getting lost in the shuffle, and then Braun Strowman now being pushed as this big monster.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking that too. So, yeah.
Poor Sami Zayn though. That guy's been a workhorse, and all he does is lose.
Yeah, I know. Well, the idea is that he'll make Braun Strowman look strong.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then, I don't think they'll make that the pre-show match. So if they do add a pre-show match, it'll probably be Golden Truth and Mark Henry against the Colognes and what are they being called? The Shining Stars now.
The Shining Stars,
and
yeah.
The Titus brand. Oh God, that's awful.
It is, but for Golden Truth and Mark Henry, they got a pop a couple weeks ago on Raw. It's like the smart marks were like, oh yeah, the old guy is getting a one last push before they sail off into the sunset.
Yeah.
So,
and I think they'll do like a 6-man tag or something like that, and the good guys
I'm sure
will
they
win.
will.
That'll
Your
be the pre-show
favorite pre-show match where they throw just everybody they have on the card. Just like, all right, we're having a 20-man tag match. You're all on.
Or they'll do another Bo Dallas versus Curtis Axel match, and Curtis will get his win back. They do the 50-50 booking there.
Yeah, speaking of that, I don't mind. Like when I was in Detroit for Raw a few months ago, the pre-show, Curtis Axel wrestled, and he was getting some chants. Let's go, Axel. I mean, there's some push behind him, and I really hope they actually go through with it and let him get a little momentum because for me, I like seeing the son of Mr. Perfect succeed. What can I say? I was a fan of his dad.
he was really over in Minneapolis on Raw, and he brought up his grandfather, Larry the Axe, and of course, Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, just go with it. Screw this, the stupid gimmicks they have. And it's kind of weird with Bo Dallas, too, because they're giving him this edgy sort of thing, but yet he's still goofy coming out with the sign. So it's like you can't quite take the guy seriously yet.
I have no idea what they're doing.
What are they doing with this guy?
So those 3 matches I just mentioned, very well could be added to the show,
right.
just as filler. Maybe even another Bayley versus Dana Brooke match they might add to the show. In which case, I think Bayley will get her win back. She lost a few weeks ago, or last week actually, when Dana tried to cheat, but she was unable to get her foot on the rope and botched it, and it looked really bad. Then it
was awful.
Then they did the arm wrestling segment, which got boring chants on Raw.
Yeah, my poor friend Chad Patton was the referee, and he had to be involved in the boring chants. That's awful when you get those chants.
Yeah. All right, so that'll wrap it up for our thoughts on the pay-per-view. You got your Twitter account where people can send you comments or questions. What is it again?
SmartMark420.
SmartMark420.
That is correct.
So check him out there, add him on there, and of course, stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And you can check out my personal channel at Aaron Rift on YouTube for Walking Dead videos, and I'm getting a ton of heat on there for posting spoilers in the headline.
They should get a ton of heat for how long they drag that segment out.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to hear my thoughts on The Walking Dead, check that out at youtube.com/Aaron Rift, and that'll wrap it up for this video. We will see you guys next time.